Well, welcome, and thank you, Dave, for the kind introduction. I've been fortunate to work in both large and small companies and with nonprofits, as you heard. And I feel very lucky to have seen the seed of an idea that I had grow and thrive into the company it's become today. Tonight, I've been asked to share some of my experiences and beliefs about leadership. During my Coinstar years, we won many awards, but the one that I'm most proud of is we won the award for Best Company to Work For. Is this showing up in the back okay? Okay, good. Our culture was strong and it mattered to people. All of us who worked there knew that we had created something special, and there were many moments when it was simply fun to be at work. We felt deeply proud of what we had accomplished, not always, but sometimes for sure. I'll first share some comments tonight on what I call, about my leadership approach and what I call the light touch of leadership. And then I'll share some specific examples that I used at Coinstar showing what light touch leadership's all about. I'm a bit of a junkie for how organizations work. I'm really fascinated by organizations, how they come together. There's a Russian psychologist whose name I cannot pronounce, although I've tried, who studies what makes a person feel really happy. He calls it being in the state of flow, when everything just seems to be working. It happens to me from time to time. I honestly wish it would happen more. But when it does happen, I love it, and I try not to disturb it. And I try to stay very present in that moment and just let it be. So I'm keeping a list on my iPhone of moments when I feel really alive, and I'm noticing what I'm doing, and I'm trying to do more of those things. Some of the things on my list include skinning up a mountain and skiing down, rocking out to new music, seeing great designs, especially garden designs, sharing a meal with close friends, witnessing acts of kindness, and brainstorming new concepts with others. From a leadership standpoint, I'm really interested in what makes an organization feel alive. How do you create an organization that's tuned in and that really flows? How do you get a group of people to not only bring their brains to work, but also their hearts and their dreams and their passions, and their desire to contribute to the bigger world around them? How do you help create and then lead an organization that feels good, an organization that flows? Leadership has many facets. There are tough and tenacious parts of leadership, to be sure, that require much conviction. But tonight, I'd like to address the more personal side of leadership, the parts that ask for more compassion. One of the things on my Feeling Alive list is reading poetry. I've only been doing it for a few years, and it really grabs me. I'm even trying to write some of my own poems. And I'd like to share a poem with you, but don't worry, it's not one of mine. It's really a good thing. It's actually by one of my favorite writers, our brilliant local hero, David White. And I'm assuming some of you know him. And it's a short poem. It's called The Lightest Touch. Good poetry starts with the lightest touch. A breeze arriving from nowhere, a whispered healing arrival, a word in your ear, a settling into things. And then, like a hand in the dark, it arrests the whole body, stealing you for revelation. In the silence that follows a great line, you can feel Lazarus deep inside. Even the laziest, most deathly afraid part of you lift up his hands and walk towards the light. I think there's a lot in this poem. There's a sense of something internal waking up after you've read a great line and inviting you to tune into yourself and move closer to a state of flow. It's not forced, but it compels you forward towards the light and towards a state of flow. And the first line tells us what triggers this. Good poetry starts with the lightest touch. So when thinking about what makes an entire organization flow, I believe that good leadership also starts with the lightest touch. That light touch leadership begins with the human connection, first with yourself, and then with others, and then with the broader world, the big other. Good leadership is deeply personal. It happens inside of you and in one-on-one conversations. When you are working with someone, I believe that the most important thing you can do is to invite them to join the vision of the organization and then enable them to contribute in a way that matters to them. It's an invitation for people to activate what I call their own internal guidance system and make the traditional external motivational systems moot. Forget about management by objectives, annual goals, quarterly action items, bonuses, and other incentives. They all have a place in good management, but they are of little value unless a person's internal compass is aligned. And the work won't be great unless people feel engaged, And when a group of people feels engaged, then the whole organization can feel like it is in a state of flow. I first witnessed this in college when I was on the crew team. The coach was a 2-time Olympian and normally an easygoing guy. And it turns out he was an expert in light touch leadership. Before one race, he told us he could give us a pep talk and get us all fired up for the race, but it only lasted about 15 minutes. If we wanted to win, he said, and find out how good we could be, our motivation had to come from within. So before a race, he would say, "Don't let anything dull your desire." And that was enough. He was inviting us to bring our best selves to the race, and it was powerful. In rowing, when everyone is truly working together and to the best of their ability, the boat has this sense of swing to it that at times can feel almost transcendent or like a state of flow. One time, the coach did get fired up. It was after the final race, and the whole team was together for the end of season banquet. The varsity had won, and the junior varsity had lost. Everyone was sitting at tables facing each other, and the room was full of alumni and supporters. And one of the guys in the JV boat was crying, and one of the guys from the winning varsity boat started needling him and making crass comments. And the coach stood up and raised his voice just loud enough for her to hear, "Don't you get it? It's not about the winning and the losing. He's crying because he cared about the race, and you're happy because you cared about the race. If neither of you cared, the outcomes would not matter. So get on board with the caring." The room was silent. The coach has made his point that he wanted us to have our internal guidance systems fully engaged. He wanted us to care. And he'd been quietly teaching that for years by inviting us to look inside and then join his vision about what made a great team. You can't force someone to care, but you can invite them to join you. And like a great line in a poem, his light touch leadership called us forward from the inside. So what does light touch leadership look like in an organization? I say it's human and it's personal. It's about one-on-one conversations, telling stories, and sharing experiences. It's about listening to people and being really present. It's about delegating decision-making. It's about celebrating mistakes. It's about open communication and broadly sharing data. It's about actively managing your culture and deciding what to celebrate and what to mourn. So most importantly, light touch leadership is about inviting others to share the common vision. You have a personal vision for yourself, and so do the others you lead. Organizational power and the opportunity for flow come from having that common vision that everybody commits to and pursues, and that activates everyone's internal guidance systems. You can't mandate it. You have to ask for it. Now we're up to speed. As leaders, our job is to crystallize that common vision and then invite people to join in its vigorous pursuit. When we do so, it is far more likely that our organizations can reach a state of flow for some brief moments from time to time. And when that happens, it inspires great work from all. The enabling ingredient for this good leadership is starting with the lightest touch. So let me use my Coinstar story as an example to illustrate one element of light touch leadership. I believe that before you can lead others, you must first be able to lead yourself. And you can't lead yourself until you have a vision for yourself and can tap into your own internal guidance system and understand what you truly care about. My leadership of others starts with a personal vision for myself. I can't invite anybody to the party unless I know where it is. My personal vision and motivation came from many places, but not the least of the fact was I was in grad school and I soon needed a job, which was highly motivating. But it also came from my parents, who are with us tonight in the back of the room. Hi, Mom and Dad. And my upbringing. Mom and Dad, who grew up in Denmark and came to the US in 1950 after World War II. After living here for 5 years, they took the citizenship test, which, by the way, was really hard. And Mom is very proud of the fact that she got the highest score in the group. I would wager today that many of us in this room tonight could not pass that test. I've seen it, and it is a tough lesson in civics. In 1956, they started a very small greenhouse business that would become their life's work. I grew up around a dinner table where there was lots of talk about running and starting a small business and lots of talk about being an active citizen. We talked politics and were expected to volunteer in the community. And although it was really annoying to me as a teenager, we recycled long before it was the norm and easy to do so. My kids still get annoyed by that. I did not know it at the time, but our family conversations encompassed the private sector, the public sector, and the nonprofit sectors. I was lucky to be at that dinner table. Being a citizen and being a participant in the community really meant something deep to my parents, and I felt it. I felt my father's conviction to make good things happen, and I felt my mother's compassion for others, and I learned through osmosis. It's interesting to me now that both conviction and compassion were part of my daily dinnertime feedings. So after college, when I was working in New York at the investment bank, something felt wrong. No surprise, I guess, but the work was fascinating, but it felt unbalanced. I was working 80 hours a week in the private sector, but my nonprofit activity involved writing a small donation check to the Cousteau Society at the end of the year. And my public sector citizenship participation amounted to sending my absentee ballot late on the day of election, right before midnight, generally after the results had been announced. It didn't feel very good. So I started to dream about a job that was more balanced, one that integrated public, private, and nonprofit sectors. A job where I would not have to choose between doing well for myself and my future family and doing good for others. The problem was I couldn't find a job that offered that. So I talked with many friends, and they felt the same way. So I had the notion that maybe all of us should start a company that offered that kind of job. Plus, it'd be fun to work with my friends. So roll the camera forward 3 years, and I was finishing grad school, and it really was time to find that job. And that was the seed for Coinstar. The idea for a kiosk in a supermarket that counted your coin jar and gave you cash back came from personal need. I'd moved a lot, and the jar of coins that traveled with me kept getting bigger and bigger. When I was a kid, the banks would count my coins for me in their machines, but they would no longer do it. After researching the idea while I was in school, I discovered that there was over $7 billion of change sitting on America's dresser tops, and more interestingly, consumers handled over $150 billion a year in loose change and cash transactions. I realized that this weird coin idea, as the venture capitalists called it, and didn't fund, by the way, in the beginning, had to put that in there, could be the company I dreamed about while I was in New York. It could be a big private sector company, grow fast, create lots of jobs, and give consumers extra spending power. It could benefit the public sector. If we were successful and got that $7 billion of coins off the dresser tops and back into circulation, we'd become the national coin recycling system. Thanks, Mom, for the recycling idea, by the way. And the Mint and the Fed would not have to waste money making new coins when the old ones were perfectly good. And it could benefit the nonprofit sector. Charity and coins have a long history: March of Dimes, Salvation Army, the orange boxes at Halloween from UNICEF. We would set up our machines to accept donations and then wire the money directly to charities. With a 94% pass-through rate, we've become the most efficient form of fundraising available, and remain so today. So that's the genesis of my... So that's the genesis of my personal vision and the source of my leadership. It took me a couple of years to sort it out, but when I graduated in 1990, instead of getting a job, I decided to make one for my friends and me by starting a company. I really believed in it and had deep conviction that it would work, and that was important for my ability to lead. But since it was not an easy process, coming up with the idea. And since good leadership starts with yourself, I had to remind myself that light touch leadership also applied to me. I don't know about you, but I'm often toughest on myself and have to remind myself that self-compassion is essential. Remember to take it easy on yourself. Looking back, I wish I had done that more. During the next 10 years, I hired many people and worked hard to build a great team. And I so hoped that the team would feel motivated and engaged to do great work. And I had to learn how to lead and how to lead with a light touch. Here's one example of my light touch leadership. As the company leader, I talked a lot about our vision, as many leaders do, but I think I did it a little bit differently. I'd been taught in school that vision, a big word, was a combination of purpose, mission, and values. I called them the why, the what, and the how of the company. Every organization has them. Some organizations mush them all together in one statement, which I personally find hard to do. And I encourage you to be clear in your own organization about what your own why, what, and how are. Purpose, the why, is the North Star. It's not a goal that you can achieve. It's subtle, but it's important. To detect it, imagine your company or organization was a race tonight and ask yourself, what would the world lose? Answer that question and you'll get a better sense of why your organization is really here. Mission is the what? The big goal. Go climb Mount Rainier. Values are the how, the way you behave, how you walk the talk. Coinstar's why, Coinstar's North Star was the following, and I quote, By pursuing relentless innovation, we innovated a lot, and delivering superior execution, we seek to enhance the lives of people associated with Coinstar and contribute to all sectors of society. All three sectors were built in from the very beginning. It does not say anything about counting coins. We wanted to innovate and enhance people's lives and contribute to the bigger world around us. And with that purpose, it was easy to recruit people to come join me. Coinstar's what was, by pursuing technology-based supermarket-focused services that save people time and money, we will create a self-service coin recycling network that processes $4 billion of coins annually by the year 2002. Or if you prefer the shorthand version, no 1998 pennies. We figured if we got the recycling going quick enough, the mint could actually stop. And our values were delighting customers, caring, like the crew coach said, every day, creating value, growth and profit, acting ethically, and making sure our mindset was right, how we thought about stuff. And we spent a lot of time writing, discussing, and clarifying these three things, and I made sure that they were clear. And then with a light touch, I invited others to join me in that vision. When hiring, I told the stories, I shared my passion, and I listened. And I could only hope that others would feel something deep inside themselves and want to join and contribute. And my experience is that they did bring them best selves, including their minds and hearts and dreams, with their internal guidance systems fully activated. And together we made a shared vision that was better and stronger. Hearing my story, you might wonder if Coinstar's growth from $0 to $2.3 billion of revenue was smooth, and I assure you it was not. At times, it was a very bumpy, rough ride. But the vision kept us centered and on track. We had faith in each other that sustained us throughout. Over its lifetime, Coinstar has now recycled over $37 billion of loose change and has raised over $70 million for nonprofits. In many ways, the vision became a reality, and I believe that light touch leadership approach was elemental in our success. And it was so much more fun to work with a great group of people who were deeply motivated from within. For me, that's what makes an organization feel like it's in flow. On a personal note, I remember a very good day in 1998. The day started off with me working on a new financing to fuel the next wave of growth. I was on a phone with an investment bank in New York. More fun to call them than to work for them, by the way. Next, I was on the phone with the Bank of England and the Mint in the UK, and as we were preparing for our international expansion, they very much wanted all of their countries' dresser-top pennies to come back into circulation so they could stop producing low-value coins and create high-value coins like the euro and 1 and 2 pound coins. And finally, I spoke with UNICEF in New York to coordinate a fundraising campaign. When I got home that day, I was happy, quiet, still, and feeling professionally fulfilled. I was in a state of flow as I realized that my dream job had happened that day, integrated work in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Today, my personal vision is that many organizations beyond Coinstar integrate with the other sectors and see their involvement as symbiotic and catalytic. As citizens, we need all three sectors to function well. It seems especially important now. The private sector is in decent shape, but the nonprofit sector is underfunded and at times struggles with its effectiveness. But the public sector continues to truly struggle and is not addressing the big problems of our time. Only 20% of us trust the federal government. Imagine what it must be like to work for the federal government and have 4/5 the people not trust the work that you're doing. Something's got to change. Opportunities exist where there are inefficiencies, and the public sector is full of them. So I invite all of us here to think broadly as citizens about what could happen better. No matter what sector we work in, how can our organizations be of service to the other sectors? How do we elevate ourselves and our country? This is still my personal vision, and it will require a lot of light touch leadership. So as David White wrote about with being personally drawn forward by the light, forward to the light, with the light, So as David White wrote about being personally drawn forward by the light touch of good poetry, my leadership belief is that when you invite people to share your vision and to enable them to activate their internal guidance systems, good things happen. The outcome is more likely to be great, real teamwork emerges, and the work can feel like it's flowing. And it all starts with the lightest touch. Thank you.